5, 6. We are for sure going to have 6 full days of a government shutdown. But Lisa, today's only Friday, day 3. Yeah, you're right. Today is day 3, but the Republican leadership in the Senate is about to send everyone home for the weekend. Yes, you heard that correctly. With no deal in sight, tons of federal workers furloughed, and our military members and essential federal employees working with no pay, the Senate Majority Leader decided to send all of the senators home until Monday. And they, yes, are still getting paid. Now, for the record, in the midst of all this shutdown chaos, the House Speaker has also kept the House out of session this entire week, too. There have been 0 votes in the House this week, and next week's House schedule is unclear. That means the very soonest that we could possibly get out of this government shutdown would be Monday. And again, that makes it 6 days of a government shutdown. Now, I'm going to tell you something that might frustrate you even more than that. What's that saying again? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Well, that's exactly what's been happening in the Senate this entire week. Now, remember I told you in this video yesterday that a spending bill to reopen the government requires 60 votes to pass in the Senate. Well, all this week, the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, a Republican from South Dakota, and the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York, have decided their grand strategy to get the government back open is to just put the exact same bills on the floor for a vote that keep failing. They did that on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and they did it again today. The Republicans keep putting up the House-passed continuing resolution, and the Democrats keep putting up their version, which includes the House-passed continuing resolution, but adds the permanent extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies and the restoration of the Medicaid funding the Republicans stripped in the big, beautiful bill. Now, both of those bills keep failing over and over and over again. And instead of saying, clearly this isn't working, let's have some kind of compromise and come up with something that can pass, both sides are like, nah, it's my way or the highway. So that's where we're at. I wish I had better news, but maybe by next week, these lawmakers can get it together and get us out of this mess. That is, of course, if the House comes back to work and if the Senate can stop this cycle of voting insanity.
Have you heard the message they've left at the White House? Oh my God, listen.
Hello, America. This is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Democrats in Congress have shut down the federal government because they care more about funding health care for illegal immigrants than they care about serving you, the American people. Until Democrats vote for the clean, Republican-backed continuing resolution to reopen the government, the White House is unable to answer your call or respond to your questions.
Do you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like if you called the Teenage Mean Girls phone and it said, "Hi, this is Caroline, and I just want to say that I broke up with Jason. He didn't break up with me. The fact that I cheated was irrelevant. Also, if this is Jason and you want me to stop telling people you have a small dick, you know what to do." Bro. Not only is this message at the White House completely antithetical to how our government is supposed to work by using our federal government websites and phone lines in the most gratuitously partisan way, but this bitch is also straight up lying. The Democrats didn't shut down the government. The Republicans control every part of the government. This administration's actions right now with these messages are all against the Hatch Act, which makes them illegal. But they're also just trying to blackmail the Democrats at this point. What kind of leadership leaves a message for the people that says we can't answer the phone right now because the Democrats won't do exactly what we say? This feels like strong, professional, grown-up leadership to you? Caroline, babe, you clearly didn't get enough time being young because you got married really early to an old man. But let me tell you, teenage cruelty is so unattractive in a grown woman and mother. Do better, because it ain't it.
People have said that cruelty is the point when it comes to Donald Trump, and no better example of it than today. Let's look at what Donald Trump is doing today, besides shitting his pants and speaking incoherently and going off on tangents and saying wild and stupid fucking things and creating ominous memes. That's just what he does every day. But what does he have going on today? Well, we have the government shutdown. And we have the government shutdown because Donald Trump and the Republicans want to take away health care from millions of people. Just saying, that's the fucking fact. So we have the shutdown. With this shutdown, what else is Donald Trump doing and the Republicans? Well, they just furloughed 750,000 federal employees. People just doing their job, trying to live their lives, getting by paycheck to paycheck. Maybe some better, maybe some worse. But they certainly don't need this bullshit. And Donald Trump and the Republicans are solely responsible for the problems these people now will incur. And if that weren't enough, what else has Donald Trump done today? Well, they made a fourth attack on a fishing boat in the international waters off of Venezuela. Yeah, Pete Hegseth announced very proudly that they bombed yet another drug boat, which looks like a fishing boat, and killed 4 people. Yeah, cruelty is the point. Nobody's benefiting from Donald Trump being in the office of presidency. No one's benefiting from the Republicans being complicit with Donald Trump. Everybody in this country and around the world are suffering. The only people benefiting, Donald Trump and the Republicans. Remember that. Just watch and pay attention. This isn't something we haven't talked about before. This isn't something that you weren't warned of, but now you're seeing it play out in real time. The cruelty is the point.
So we're in the middle of a government shutdown, and Trump has been MIA. He has not been seen for 72 hours until a brief appearance today at the swearing in of the ambassador to Sweden. And that was it. They didn't even invite reporters or anyone in to that swearing in. So he didn't even want to talk to anyone. This is a man who's obsessed with being on camera. And now we're in the midst of this crisis with this government shutdown, and they need to negotiate a deal to reopen the government, and he's not seen. He's not going on camera. He's not talking to anyone. Why is that? What's going on with this guy? Is he having another major medical problem where he can't speak to reporters in front of cameras? Like, instead, he's spending his time making AI videos that are heavily racist and offensive and posting those on his Truth Social instead of getting out and talking to the American people and reassuring them that they're doing everything they can to reopen the government. Not doing that. That's what he should be doing. He's not doing it, and he's missing no public events scheduled for the last 3 days. We'll see what happens this weekend if he does anything, or if we get random shots of him leaving for his golf courses. What do you guys think is going on with Trump? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, spread the word, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
Well, it's an emotional day here. We finally set our plans in motion for departing the U.S. I'm like really, really emotional about it. I started to think about this about 7-8 months ago. And my husband and I have talked about it and bounced it back and forth, and over that time many times, and I've shared before, he's leaving it to me, but I keep drawing these lines that if they get crossed by the regime, that that's it, and I don't know why, but for some reason I keep ignoring the lines. I think I'm just afraid. I'm afraid to leave my country. I'm afraid to leave my home. But with the big meeting with the generals, which I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of fallout from that, and just the government shutdown and what Trump has said around that, it's keeping me up at night. It's keeping my husband up at night. We're a little bristly. Honestly, we're just both a little bristly right now. So we had to make a decision. That's it. We're heading north, end of the month. I just need to find a place to stay now with 2 dogs in a fenced yard and 2 parking spots because we're taking both cars because we need to take all the stuff we need. And then we need to take the what if we can't come back in a month? What if we go there for a month and then we can't get back across the border, which very well could happen. I don't feel that is a gross overstatement at all. I think it's very fair. You know, my husband and I, we were born a block apart from each other, and we've known each other our entire lives. Never in the whole time that I've known him have I ever seen him as stressed as he is right now. And I think he is because he's waiting for me to, to just say it. So I just said it. I will say that I'm very grateful to the women that I've been talking with and the men who live in Canada, who have been so welcoming and so helpful and thoughtful and just over and above, like anything that I have right now in my life, honestly. But I think I'm a little sad today that, like, it's really happening. We don't want to wait until it's too late, and I think the "it's too late" line is. I think it's here. I think it's here. So.
Hello. In today's episode of MAGA Regret, let's go to Utah. Y'all remember that I traveled there earlier this year because baby girl graduated from nursing school. Yay! Anywho, so let's go to Ogden, which is where I was. The largest employer, apparently, in Ogden, Utah, was a satellite IRS office. So you remember when Ketamine Kevin came up there with the Doge and they did all them cuts and fired all them people. Well, that office lost quite a few members of staff. Well, the remaining few staff that were there are now gone because of the shutdown. So they're now interviewing local people who had businesses. So they interviewed this man. He's 78 years old. He owned a coffee shop. Well, when the first cuts came, he saw a big dip in business, but he was still trying to hold on. Well, now, y'all, he said the time has come, and he got to get rid of his coffee shop, y'all. And you know where this is going. He voted for Syphilitic Sid. And he says very emotionally that he's very sad about all of this. This business had been in his family and blah, de blah, de blah. I don't mean to minimize his pain, but you voted for this, Larry. Yes, you did. You voted to lose your coffee shop, Larry. You did. Okay, bye.
I watched Caroline Leavitt's press conference today, so you don't have to, and here's my overview. We'll just start off with the fact that she spoke for only 33 minutes and somehow mentioned Biden 7 times and called it a Democratic shutdown at least 13 times. In fact, she starts off the whole thing by saying it's a Democratic-led shutdown and that the Democrats are holding the Americans hostage. She will later say that it's intentional sabotage of the people by Democrats and that this madness just must end. Quite hilariously, she keeps talking about groups that are going to be affected by this Democratic-led government shutdown, and she's talking about like single mothers and children, while they're quite hilariously trying to cut funding to Medicaid and SNAP and WIC. So, I mean, I really don't know why she pretends that they care about them now. She says the FAA is working for free and there's no money going into FEMA, but she refuses to acknowledge the fact that in North Carolina, they're still suffering as a result of Hurricane Helene from last year and as a result of Donald Trump not giving additional money to help the relief of those in Asheville and surrounding areas in North Carolina. She gives a statistic without a source. She says that each week the government shutdown goes on, there's going to be a $15 billion loss in GDP. To me, honestly, this just sounds like another thing that they're trying to preemptively set up to blame Democrats for why the economy is not thriving under terrible economic policy like tariffs, which are just a tax on American people. Regarding Portland, she says that Trump is going to end the reign of radical left terrorism in Portland. She also says that it's war ravaged and that Portland is ravaged with left-wing anarchy. Still regarding Portland, she says that Antifa terrorists have laid siege to an ICE facility and then calls them radical left-wing lunatics. She also says, and I hope this one is true, that the protesters put a guillotine in front of an ICE facility. I really do hope that's true. She claims that some right-wing reporter was arrested by Portland police. I'm sure he did. Absolutely. I'm sure he was just sitting on the sidelines peacefully recording the events. I'm sure there was nothing nefarious he was doing at all. Again, just to recap some of the terms that she's used: left-wing mobs, radical left lunatics, left-wing anarchists, just casually throwing those around without understanding the definition of any of the things that she's saying. Here's a direct quote: "We will not fund states that allow anarchy," showing again that she does not know the definition of anarchy. She gets asked a question about what is a Democrat agency, which is something that I have brought up myself. What, in fact, is a Democrat agency? She says that it's anyone that does not align with the administration. So just anyone who's trying to do good in the world, basically. Because he said yesterday Russell Vogt of Project 2025 fame is going to come in and make all these cuts, someone asks, is Project 2025 the blueprint for this? And she goes, I can't answer that. So yes, the answer is yes when you say that. She won't answer specifically what's going to be stopped as a result of the shutdown, but she says that they're going to stop Biden's DEI construction projects. She gets asked about Trump's feelings on Bad Bunny performing at the halftime show next year, and she says she doesn't want to talk about his feelings, but they're free to ask him that the next time they talk to him. And then she goes on to say she has her own feelings, but that's not very important right now. She's a bigot. We know she has her own feelings. Regarding Israel and Palestine, she says Hamas must accept the agreement by Sunday or face, quote, tragic consequences, which Trump has said they're just going to level the entire place. He, in fact, put out a Truth Social this morning that said very clearly that they are waiting to just go ahead and bomb everything if Hamas doesn't accept. I won't go into the details of exactly what he wrote out, but you're more than welcome to look at it yourself. She claims again that the boats that they're just blowing up without any judicial hearings at all, which is a extrajudicial killing, it is a war crime, is totally justified because they're terrorists smuggling drugs. This one is hilarious. She says, quote, the president literally works 24/7. I have a social media feed that shows that he is definitely not working 24/7. A social media feed filled with hate and contradictions and just blatant lies. It's hilarious that she would claim that. And also he doesn't sleep, I guess. Also hilarious because she's really good at not answering questions, but really bad at avoiding contradictions because all that she does is lie. She says that Hakeem Jeffries should work on opening the government back up. I will remind you, it's currently sitting with the Senate to do that, and he is the minority leader in the House of Representatives, so not on him at all. Again, just with the contradiction, she keeps getting asked questions about, are there going to be layoffs as a result of this? And she keeps saying that the president and Russell Vogt are working with the different agencies to see whether or not there's going to be layoffs. And then she says that it's an unenviable task if you have to do layoffs. And then she gets asked a question about, well, Trump says that this is a unprecedented opportunity for them to just shut stuff down. And she keeps going, well, obviously you don't want to fire people, but we have to make cuts if cuts have to be made. And then someone else brings up, hey, you didn't have to make any cuts when the government shut down for 35 days during your first term, so why does it need to be done now? And she keeps saying, well, it just is, and just accept my answer of it just is. She gets asked a question about Trump putting out a post likening Russell Vogt to the Grim Reaper, and she says, the president likes to have some fun every once in a while. She says in the continuing resolution that they passed just a few months ago that there are no partisan Republican politics in the whole thing. None. I guess they just didn't get anything they wanted. It's totally a total bipartisan bill. She says that $9.1 billion has been incurred in emergency services for treating illegal immigrants, which I'll remind you is just $27 per person per year. And I'm more than willing to pay for a few people if they just can't afford that $27 a year. She also says that the Biden admin encouraged an invasion of this country and that tens of millions of people have came in, which again is a very disputed number, and only her and Trump and people in his cabinet say that. But the rest of their government, including like ICE and border enforcement, do not say those numbers. But she says that grandmas and grandpas are waiting because illegal immigrants are taking over emergency services. She literally does not know how the emergency services in this country work. You are treated by priority, not by when you showed up, not by any of that, by priority. So gunshot wounds get priority over my ankle hurts, for example. Apparently, according to her, Trump is still planning to make IVF free. Now, if you've watched me in my lives at all, or sometimes I've mentioned on here, my wife and I are struggling with infertility. I would really like you know what? I would praise his graces if he made IVF free, at least for that issue. But he's not going to, because it was never a priority. It was just a lie, he said on the campaign trail, to just get a few more votes. Every lie is just to get a few more votes, and he's happy to say all of the lies as many times as he wants, because he knows as much as he gets fact-checked, there are people who are just going to believe him. Again, if he makes IVF free, I will praise him for that, but he will never do that. And finally, she says there are brave reporters who have gone undercover into Antifa terrorist cells, and she says she just met with one of them and they revealed a whole bunch of information. I'm just going to remind you one more time, Antifa in this country is an idea, anti-fascist or anti-fascism, and they have called that a terrorist organization on many, many, many occasions. If you are calling the idea of anti-fascism terroristic, you are calling yourself a fascist. So very clearly for those in the front, Donald Trump, KK Caroline, your entire administration is a bunch of fascists, a bunch of self-proclaimed fascists. And I hope that you will never be forgotten in history for being the horrible, horrible fascist that you are. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Love you guys. Just kidding, not done here. I have some people to thank. This person says, enjoy your gift from Jody B. They sent these really cool skull and raven bookends. I'm pretty stoked on them. We need to do some more organizing of the bookshelf because you guys have been extremely generous with the gifts, and I do appreciate that. This person says, thank you, you've been a godsend. I don't know how you do it. From Zayra, Z-A-Y-R-A, I hope I said that right. They sent 2 books, Evicted and Automating Humanity, which were both recommended by people on TikTok in my comment section. Thank you so much for that. And then this person says, my dad used to work for NASA, JPL specifically, so I buy this in his honor. Well, I think he would have been a Republican if he were still alive. He would have hated what happened to NASA. Thank you for all you do. From Tanya F. They sent me a spotting scope. Thank you, Tanya F. Thank you, everyone who sticks around and listens to this. Thank you 10%ers who have made it this far, because it's usually less than that actually now, if I'm being honest with you, maybe 6%, but sometimes it's like 15. So like really when we average it all out, we're just going to stick with 10%. And I love you 10%ers. I really do.
ICE is preparing a 24/7 social media surveillance program, and you need to know about it. Come on, let's sit down. I know I was done for tonight, but then yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. So the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE as we know it, is definitely something I want to be talking about because we're focused on a lot of things that is currently happening, like the government shutdown. Headlines are focused on that and the latest drama out of Washington, D.C. with this circus that everyone is currently watching. But I need you all to pay attention to something else that is far more concerning, and that is quietly slipping under the radar, and we all need to know about it. It is about your social media. Come on, sit down. You might want to go in ahead and get you something to drink. That's what I'm getting ready to do. Cheers. Let's get started. So, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is building a 24/7 team to scour TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, and other social media platforms that we're all familiar with around the clock, using advanced tracking tools, commercial data, and private contractors. Now, according to federal procurement records and reports reviewed by Reuters and The Intercept, this new unit will run out of ICE's intelligence centers in Vermont and California, with teams of private analysts assigned to monitor public activity online, including videos, comments, and live streams in real time. This ain't strong enough for this. Now, this isn't a few agents browsing social media, y'all. It's an industrial scale operation. Now, let me tell you, this plan actually calls for at least 30 contractors working in rotating shifts to keep eyes on social media 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, they'll use high-end open source intelligence software, the same kind used by national security agencies alongside commercial databases like LexisNexis, Clear, to connect posts to people, addresses, and phone numbers. I'm furious. Internal documents show that ICE wants, quote, target leads delivered within 30 minutes of spotting a potential match online. That means if you post a video, live stream, or tag a location near someone, ICE is tracking, it could trigger a data flag almost instantly. Now, there's this legal gray zone, so let's talk about it. So ICE defends the project as, quote, public information monitoring, arguing that anything visible online is fair game. But civil liberties experts, including the Electronic Frontier Foundation and the Center for Democracy and Technology, warn that this practice slides dangerously close to mass surveillance. Because that's what it is. So let me tell you why. No warrant is needed for public posts. Algorithms can misidentify faces or flags, especially for Black and brown users. Ordinary citizens, journalists, and activists could be swept up by association, not by action. Yep, and the Government Accountability Office has previously criticized ICE's data contracts for poor oversight and lack of accuracy checks. I need another drink. Let's talk about who's at risk. I need a breather. Now, while ICE says this is about immigration enforcement, the truth is murkier. Because, come on, y'all. Social media and social networks interconnect people. Me, you, everybody. Through likes and tags and comments and shared content, citizens and non-citizens alike could end up in ICE's analytic net. If a user shares or is tagged in a video of a protest, a neighborhood event, or even a family gathering where immigration is mentioned, that clip could appear in the system's data queue. And because this is 24/7, the feedback loop is constant. A digital dragnet operating without pause. And y'all, that's a problem. This push comes amid a broader expansion of government social media monitoring under the Trump administration's return to power. Now, agencies are not only collecting social media identifiers from visa applicants, but also expanding automated surveillance to detect patterns of threat, which critics say can include ordinary speech or activism. Yeah, let that sink in. Even more alarming, Apple recently removed an app called Ice Block. Did y'all hear about that earlier today? Yeah, which actually helped people report ICE raids. After the Justice Department pressures citing security risks, that decision, coupled with ICE's new monitoring push, paints a chilling picture of shrinking digital privacy. Now, why does this matter? Okay, this isn't just about immigration, folks. It's about who gets to watch you. And you should be furious. It's about how they watch you and what they can do with what they see. You following me? I hope so. When surveillance becomes constant, when your TikTok, your live stream, or your Facebook comments can become a federal lead in 30 minutes, the right to speak freely without fear begins to vanish. And the Constitution protects freedom of speech and freedom from unreasonable searches. But when technology races ahead of oversight, those rights actually become paper thin, almost non-existent. If unchecked, this 24/7 monitoring model could spread to other agencies, policing health or finance. Under the same logic, quote, it's public so we can watch it. Go ahead. I know you want to. Let's go ahead and take a drink. Here's what I need us to do. Neighbors, you paying attention? Stay aware. Stay informed. And before you post, know that your audience may now include not just your friends and followers, but the federal government itself. Listen, for more news and information that you can always use, head over to brownstoneworldwide.com, Cityscape Radio, and you guessed it, Brownstone Living magazine. Go ahead and take another drink. You're going to need it. We'll see you around.